Hey guys, Key here from KegLand, and today we're talking about a new Kegerator model. Now, up until now, the Series X has been, the main Kegerator model which we sell on the website, extremely popular model, and it still is, to be honest with you. But it's one of these models which was quite innovative when we brought it out. In fact, we were the first ones in the world to bring out a Kegerator model of this fairly small footprint which had the center mount compressor. So if you look at the back, it's got this compressor in the middle, so the hump is actually in the middle. Now normally on most other keg fridge, they push the compressor out to one of the corners. But in the middle, it's a little bit more space efficient because we can put one corny keg to the left, one to the right, and then sit two at the front, which made this the first Kegerator of this approximate floor footprint, which could fit 4 kegs. Now obviously, because we did that, it sort of made a few waves, and there were certainly some manufacturers in China who thought, oh, that's a really good idea, we might copy that. So as you can see here, that has now happened. Now, a factory copied the idea, which is fine. I mean, if you're gonna have a good innovation, it's only a matter of time until somebody's gonna copy it. So rather than getting pissed off about it, we thought, well, maybe we should just stock it. So I've actually brought in some of these as well, but we call them Series 4.1. So this is a Series X. The previous model that we had was a Series 4, so this one we sort of felt like sits in between, so we call it the 4.1. There are some other names for it. I think there's some other manufacturers calling this a Series XL and stuff like that, but in reality it's not an L or larger than this one or any better. Some of our testing sort of seems to have proven the latter actually. But anyway, when this one came out, there was a lot of claims that the factory made. They said when you're comparing it with the Series X, they were comparing it saying it had a larger evaporator and it had a larger condenser than this one. They also said it had faster cooling times and was more efficient. So we certainly were a little bit suspicious of all these claims because the unit was also cheaper to manufacture. So we looked at it and we're like, wait a second, it's cheaper, but then how have they put these extra features in here? So we're gonna put both of these to the test and see which one is actually the better one and see how they stack up. The other thing I should also say is this unit seems to be generally sold without a few accessories. So it doesn't come with the CO2 cylinder holder like the Series X does. It seems like most of these ones sold don't come with any guardrail, so we're not gonna sell it with a guardrail either, to be comparable, I suppose. There are some little features that the factory claimed it had, which we're going to check out. It said it had wheels, extra wheels, or integrated wheels for wheeling it around. But when you buy both of these models, they generally come with proper cast wheels anyway. But they sort of market that as a feature, so we're going to look at that. The other thing is they marketed this unit as also having a LED light internally. Now, we opted to not bother about the LED light. That increased the price by another $5 or something like that, but that's another option that can come with this one. But it is a keg fridge, so we're sort of wondering if an LED light's necessary or not. If you think it is necessary though, put it in the comments below. If you really think we should put LED lights in these, we're happy to do it. It's just one of those things that it just seems strange in a keg fridge, which is generally closed. You don't open the door and look at the kegs. It's just something where the beer line's connected, so the only thing you really need to see is the taps coming out the top. But look, that's something that can be a difference if you get that option with this model. It also had adjustable fan speed as well on it. So we tried the adjustable fan speed and we just felt that when we put the fan speed down, it just didn't cool very efficiently. So we thought, is that even necessarily a great option or not? But anyway, once again, if you guys think fan speed control is a really handy thing, then put it in the comments below. But we might even get rid of that feature and not order that option on this one in the future because it seems a bit useless. Anyway, let's get stuck into the nitty-gritty. Let's do some testing and we'll do some data logging and we'll check some energy consumption and cooling performance and see which one stacks up to be the best. Now, one of the first claims that they've got is the evaporator on the Series 4.1 was bigger. Now, it doesn't look bigger to me. I'm looking at that right now, and I would not say that that evaporator is bigger than this evaporator. Also, the other thing is, on the Series X, we did put quite a lot of effort into the engineering to make sure the airflow is very efficient. So you can see with the fan, we've got a shroud around the fan, so it basically sucks air behind the evaporator and blows it out the fan. While if you look at the 4.1, look, they've saved a bit of tooling costs. They've used the old same fan shroud as before, and this fan shroud just bolted to the roof, and it's basically just put right next to the chill plate. So I guess it's going to cool and move air. you know, fairly well, I suppose, but I doubt that it's going to be as efficient as this unit, which sucks air from the bottom of the evaporator, behind the evaporator, and blows it out the fan. So looking at the actual chill loops as well, if you look at the right, we've got the actual loops on the evaporator, which go right to the edge on the Series X. So you can see here, they go right to the left and all the way to the right. There's probably a centimetre gap. So they're using the entire space on the evaporator as well. So that's where the refrigerant will go in there. It's using the entire space of the evaporator. If you look at the 4.1 on the other hand, you can see there's quite a large gap here. So yes, they're claiming that the evaporator is a certain size, but they're not really using that entire evaporator either, because the actual refrigeration lines only use a portion of that. You can see what I mean by that fan cooling though. The fan is literally just sitting almost hard up against that, that chill plate there, and really it's not sucking air from behind the chill plate really at all. So you're going to get some convection currents for sure, but then if you look at the Series X here, this is going to be way more efficient because it's blowing cold air out of the fan and it's sucking the air from the underside. So the air is blowing under here, coming up the back of the evaporator and then blowing out the fan, meaning the air is going to be in close contact with that chill plate, and I would imagine that's going to give you faster cooling, but we'll see soon if that's the case or not. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to compare two of these fridges with respect to how fast they can cool. Now, in the paperwork, it says this one actually cools faster, but let's see if it's correct. So what I've got is two of these wrapped temperature controllers. Obviously, these log up to the internet and so forth. I've already calibrated both of the probes here. And what I'm going to do is basically drop them into the top of the fridge. And I've got a standard corny keg here, which is full of water. I've taken out the pressure release valve, and I'm going to drop this probe down into that, room temperature water inside the keg there. And what we're going to do is leave them both set on 4 degrees, and we're going to log this for the next 24 hours and look at the graph and see which one will actually cool the water down faster. So I'll do the same thing with this one on here, and then we'll come back and have a look at the difference. Okay, so as you can see, both of these fridges now have the nice cold kegs in here which have cooled down, and we've logged all the information onto the wrapped temperature controllers here, so it's all gone up to the web. So let's have a look at the numbers and see which one cooled down faster.
So as you can see here, these are both of the data logs which are overlaid onto the same graph. We've got the Series X, which is his red line here, and the Series 4.1, which is the blue line. Now, after we finished doing the last recording, we actually made a small change. We noticed that the water was quite cool inside the keg, because that's just the Melbourne tap water temperature. I think it was about 15.5 or almost 16 degrees basically. That was cooler than what we already wanted, so we had a significant delta in temperature. What we wanted to do was drop the temperature. So instead of doing the test with the fridges set at 4 degrees, we actually switched them down to 0 degrees to see the how quickly they cooled. Anyway, you can see the graphs here. We've got the temperature dropping pretty quick. After about a day and a half, you can see here the Series X got down to that 0 degree set point, while the Series 4.1 was still about 2 degrees warmer at the same time. Now the Series 4.1, after an extra day, did get down to the 0 degree set point as well. So it did get there in the end, which is fine. Some of you guys might feel that's perfectly fine to take an extra day to cool that extra couple degrees, I suppose. But certainly when you look at the numbers, it is clear to see that the Series X has got faster cooling performance. I should also say both of these fridges were set on the fastest fan cooling speed as well to make all tests equal.
So typically, if you're going to make a fridge, one of the places you can save money is the condensers. Now in these types of fridges, the condensers are in the left and right hand wall and underneath the wall of the fridge. So it's one of those things that's hard to tell where they are, and it's typically, if you're making an economy fridge, you're going to save money by making the condenser smaller and saving cost. But let's have a look at these two condensers and compare them. Now, because we don't want to have to chop the fridge open, what we're going to do is use thermal imaging. So as you can see, we've got a thermal imaging camera here to compare the size of the condensers in two of these models, and then we're going to put it up on the screen in a moment and see which one's actually larger. Now in the marketing material of the 4.1, it says that it's got a larger condenser than the Series X, but let's see if that's actually true or not. Now as you can see, the condensers in both of these models are a little bit different shape. The Series 4.1, look, arguably they've done a good job of coming quite low over the step at the back where the compressor is normally mounted, while the Series X is higher. But on the other hand, the Series X has the coil come right to the back here and also right to the front as well. So when you look at the Series X, we measured that one up. 3,084 square centimeters, and this one's 2,658. So a little bit more than 16% larger on the Series X. That's one of the things that's going to contribute to the electrical efficiency of the fridge itself. The other thing I could say is we measured the linear length as well with the thermal imaging, and we found it was pretty much the same as well. It was about 16% larger on the Series X. So the length of the coil and the space at which it takes up on the side of the fridge is also larger. So, you know, the marketing material on this one, which says it has a larger condenser, is maybe not quite exactly truthful. Now, an easy place to save money if you're making a fridge is in the insulation. If you have thinner walls and thinner doors, you're definitely going to save money because using less polyurethane, you know, makes sense. So in the door of this one, you can see the door itself is 35 millimeters, and the door of the Series X is 41 millimeters. So there's a difference of 14.6 millimeters. Now we've taken those measurements in the middle of the door. So not just the edge here, but right dead center of the door, because that's the best average sort of thickness. But where it becomes more obvious is when you actually look at the walls. So let's have a look at the wall of the Series 4.1. You can see it's really, really thin. If you look at this, it's 28 millimeters thick. So the real problem when you've got really thin walls like this is, as you saw before on the thermal imaging, we've got heat, which is quite hot. It often gets up to 60 degrees on the sides of the fridge, especially on a hot day. And essentially, if you don't have good insulation, that heat is then permeating back into the same fridge space you're trying to cool. So this is where, you know, thickness in the walls makes a massive difference. So if you know anything about engineering a fridge, this is something you want to be really careful that the really hot radiator is separated from the internal fridge space. So let's have a look at the Series X. You can see this one, on the other hand, we've got much thicker. You see instantly here, we've got a 40 mil thickness. So that's substantially thicker than this one. In fact, it's 43% thicker. So it's really quite large. That really is going to help prevent that heat, that radiated heat here, permeate back into the fridge exactly where we don't want it. So now we're going to do some energy testing and see which one uses the most power. So both of these are starting just from room temperature. I've got this this studio room in here, which is basically air conditioned. I'm going to crank the air conditioning up to about 26 degrees, sort of, you know, average temperature, I guess. And I'm going to plug them both in. So these are Arlec power meters. Look, nothing too special here. I'm going to put them into this power board, and I'm going to plug the two Kegerators in like this. I'm just going to put one in like that and chuck that one in like this. And I'm going to run the AC for the next week, and then we're going to come back and see what the power consumption results are like. Okay, so we've had both these fridges plugged in, running for a week now. We've got the Series X on this side and the Series 4.1. The room has been kept a constant 26 degrees, so sort of warmish, but not like overly hot, pretty sort of average temperature, I guess. And there has been definitely a difference in the power consumption. So let's have a look at these power meters on the ground here. Oh, I'll just take this out of the holder tripod and let's have a close look. As you can see on these little Arlec power meters, on the left-hand side, this is the Series X on this side. You can see it's 6 kilowatt hours, and on the right, 7.1. So obviously this is only a week, but you can see the difference pretty much between the Series 4.1. Definitely consumes more power. In fact, you know, when you look at the numbers, it's about a little bit over 18% more power than the Series X. So certainly this is, you know, the Series X is more energy efficient, and then if you don't mind spending 18% more power, then you can get the Series 4. Now, the other thing worth noting is when you're doing these types of temperature experiments, you will notice that as the ambient temperature gets higher and higher, the difference between the two will also increase as well. So look, we could perform this test again at, let's say, 30 degrees, like in the middle of summer or something like that, and the power consumption would be a greater difference, because we already know that most of the power consumption is lost essentially through insulation. So because of the poorer insulation of the Series 4.1, you know, when the temperatures really start to climb, that's where you're going to notice even more of an energy difference. But certainly at a pretty average 26 degrees, already there's an 18% or more than 18% difference in power consumption. Okay, so these are the two undersides of the fridges. Look, it's probably not really necessary to compare the base of the fridge, I guess, but we've got the Series 4.1 on the left here and the Series X on the right. Now, the X definitely looks like a higher build quality, probably because it is, but let's take a closer look, because one of the advantages they say about this unit is that it has an extra pair of wheels. Now, the caster wheels themselves, these ones are absolutely identical. They're the 35mm caster wheel on both, so really no difference there. But one of the marketing things that they're talking about on this unit is that it has extra rolly wheels. So it said it had these under here. Now, look, oh, look at that wheel there. This injection molded wheel here with no plastic bearing, they're saying that's a selling point. So look, I guess if for some reason you wanted this really small little, dicky little wheel under here, then maybe you might find that a compelling selling point to get the 4.1. But for those people who don't really feel that little wheel's necessary, you've got the Series X. So now just looking at the back of the fridges, they're both pretty similar. As you can see, we've got a a shiny sort of finish on this one, and then on the Series X, we've got the matte finish. So if you like a matte finish, look, the Series X is the one to go with. But if you like a shiny paint finish, then the 4.1 might be better for you. The other thing I should say is we've made a couple upgrades when we made the Series X. On the back, we put these PCO threads on here, so that way they take our standard carbonation caps, which means you can screw these on like that. And that means if you wanted to quick disconnect your gas line, so you can have your gas bottle sitting here, for instance, and quick disconnect your gas line like that, meaning it's really, really easy to take your bottle away and use it for something else, to carbonate or go and get refilled or something like that. While with this one, you're going to have this come out, and generally it's going to be tethered pretty much onto the regulator, which is a bit annoying if you want to take your gas bottle away. So look, they still have two outputs on the back though. So this one has two outputs here, and this one has two outputs here. So this one presumably just undo these bits, and yeah, well, that's the build quality I was talking about. The build quality definitely doesn't seem quite as good. The whole shroud just sort of came out like that. The whole plug came out, but you know, I guess you could live with that, and you could probably kind of glue that in or something. And that one did the same thing as well. So yeah, basically it kind of does the same thing on the Series 4. You can basically just take off these black caps, but these are a bit of a non-standard thread here, so you can't do that. But you just put the gas line straight in and away you go. So functionally, look, it does the same thing. And look, for the price difference, I suppose we can forgive that. Another thing worth mentioning really quickly is also we've got this model in the pipeline as well, which is the KegLand Series X, but in full stainless. So this has a stainless door, stainless walls, and even the top of it is stainless like that as well. So this new model is going to come out next year in 2023. I should also say that it's possible that you could buy this top separately and upgrade your current Series X, but you would be left with the walls still being black, and also, you know, things like the door trim would be black plastic like they are now. But on this new model, it's going to have the silver instead of the black, so that sort of metallic silver look to match the stainless steel brush door as well. And even this membrane on the front will also be a metallic silver color as well when that is released. So this is just a sample one that we've taken a photo of here. Anyway, keep a lookout for that one. Another really awesome product on the horizon. So yeah, if you want a full stainless, maybe you're in an area close to the beach, a lot of corrosion potentially, this could be a good model for you down the track. Well, that's pretty much it, guys. Look, I guess if you ask me, I'm probably going to say I prefer the Series X. It's got a better build quality, and really when it comes down to the environmental efficiencies, look, I'm a bit of an enviro, and it's one of those things which I'd rather pay a little bit extra to get something which is going to pay itself off in the long run, but ultimately they're not going to, you know, burn up so many fossil fuels. Now, of course, if you're running off solar, maybe you don't really care. You can get either model. But like in reality, you know, I think the little extra expense you're going to pay if you're paying for power is essentially going to pay itself off with the Series X. But if you're strapped for cash, I would hate to see you not get a Kegerator if you can't afford the Series X. So this is a great economy option for people who don't have the money. So look, there you go. There's the facts as we've put them out there. Hope you enjoy using both of these fridges. And if you want to hear about any of the cool new stuff that's coming out, definitely subscribe to this YouTube channel. Bottom right hand corner, hit subscribe now. It really helps us and doesn't cost you anything. The other thing is join our Facebook Homebrew community group. If you want to join that, we're talking about all this type of gear and plenty of other stuff and getting lots of tips and tricks on how to use everything that we sell. So join that Facebook Homebrew community group too. Anyway, that's it, and hope to see you guys next time. Bye.